Hi, I'm Reba Hervis, Artistic Director at Overshadowed Theatrical Productions. I would like to invite you to come spend a little time with me today on my stage. Usually at the end of a production, it's empty, blank. What is old has to come down so that we can begin something new again. I like to kind of think of the process of a director putting a production together as somewhat like an artist. You know how it is. An artist starts with a perfectly blank canvas, or a sculptor starts with a lump of clay and slowly begins to form something really breathtaking, a work of art. It's the same thing for a director. We start with nothing, but the scenic designer begins to put the background or the foundation in place. And then the actors step on that blank canvas and they are able to start molding their characters and crafting it so that we can together create something that's truly breathtaking, a work of art. I'm so excited to get to introduce Johanna Lee and Steve Keller to you today. They are our set designers for our upcoming production of Noah. Take it away, boys.
My name is Steve Keller, and I'm a volunteer with Overshadowed. I volunteer to do various things, whether it's helping build sets or in other technical aspects.
Hi, I am Johanna Lee. I am the scenic designer at Overshadowed and have been a volunteer with the company for over at least 13 years, I believe, and been able to do this full-time for at least 5.
You have no idea how excited I am to get these two guys out of the backstage and into the spotlight.
I think both Yo and I were very interested in taking on Noah again. It had been, I think, nearly 10 years since we did Noah the first time.
11 years. So much has changed.
We built that set in a much smaller venue. If any of you are familiar with Itasca Baptist Church.
Much smaller.
Yes, much smaller.
Much smaller.
So the opportunity to take on this story again on a bigger stage in a bigger venue was an exciting challenge, I think, for both of us.
Feels like redemption in a way, in the sense of like being able to improve something that we've done in the past into this large-scale project.
We've learned a lot since then on how to build a set, at least to try to come up with a better vision of what we think it might have been.
Okay, now wait a minute, that's interesting, because I'm not sure what you mean by a better vision.
I think for me, the best thing for this one is just the scale that we're able to go. This, I think, gave you much more of an opportunity to detail it and to decorate it in a way that was not possible back
I'd have
when
to
we
agree
did it
with
last
that.
time.
This one, thankfully, we knew somebody that was able to give us essentially 69, 70 logs almost for free.
It was just basically having to transport them from northern Minnesota.
It feels right for the actors. When you're sitting in the audience, it just looks right. It looks more grand than it actually is. Even though this is a bigger stage than it was back then, taking it out into the audience, building a thrust and more platforms, levels, it just feels a lot more grand to what the arc should be.
You know, people never think about the hours that it takes to start preparing the vision, to dream up the set and think about it before you even start to build it.
So design work for Noah started probably end of 2019.
Around December before Christmas.
I think we started throwing around a few ideas. Then spring, pre-COVID, we started discussing a little bit more details and
February and March, just with drawings and sketches.
But then, of course, COVID totally threw the whole schedule all up in the air. And then we started at the end of September building some of the preliminary pieces. So a lot of hours. Yo, what's your estimate on hours?
My low estimate is probably 1,008.
Yeah.
1,008 hours.
And that's low, and that's just your hours.
That's just mine.
Yeah. So probably, if you were to take all the man hours, there's probably over 1,800 man hours into this set. Why would we invest that much time?
I love it. We love it.
Yes, we do love theater. We do love telling a story.
Yeah.
I think for me personally, we're telling a very important story. We're telling a story of redemption, of judgment, but the main takeaway from the story is that there is judgment, but there is salvation from that judgment. And I think of all the stories that we have the opportunity to tell as a theater, these type of stories are the most important. And for me, they're the most interesting and the ones that I'm more excited to be a part of.
I think that when I first started this set, it was probably like a month and a half ago that I actually I wear construction gloves a lot of the times that I build, mostly all the time, and I went home with them on and I took them off, and I found my hands bleeding, literally dripping blood, and I just thought to myself, how many days, how many hours of toiling, of just cutting logs, of building with this lumber that is just mammoth scale. I just appreciated more of Noah and his family.
I think that the takeaway that both Yo and I think we agree on this, is that while we like people to appreciate the set, the most important thing that we want people to take from this is the message of the gospel. Yeah. And that our hope and our prayer is that through this production, that the gospel would go out, and that what we've done here on stage would be a conduit for that.
It's not about self.
No.
Yeah.
And we certainly would not want anything that we've done on stage to distract from that. And so while in some ways, it is a big set, it's something to look at, we also don't want it to distract from the message that the scripture is trying to teach us in the story of Noah. I consider it a privilege to be able to tell that story and to be a part of telling that story. We have a God who tells stories. He gave us the Bible, which is one big story filled with hundreds of little stories. And with this production, we get to tell one of those big stories that has a global scale.
Will you ever read the story of Noah again the same way? I know I won't. Thank you for joining us today. Until next time, this is just me talking to you from the wings.